I think the show's starting to lose me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I was kind of meh on this episode after watching it. This is there was some really cool stuff in it, like great visuals, and again, fantastic acting. I cannot say enough good things about the actors and their performances in the show, but the writing, or at least the art of how they're telling this story, is starting to feel a bit shit to me. Then, I watched the behind the scenes stuff that runs after the show, and that turned my minor annoyances into actual anger. I think we're getting into some of the same issues I had with the past season of Westworld.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
I don't know if
where are you talking about how they explain things?
Yes.
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 Yep, I noticed that too. I think I just kind of let some of it go more than Westworld, because Westworld, the show itself, was so much worse. There's so much less entertainment to me. But
and it's supposed to be
probably why I was kind of like, okay. But I did notice that. I did kind of feel that way when I watched that.
And it's another one of those things where with Westworld, it's a show that wants you to look closely at stuff to pick up on things. And then you're like, wait a minute, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, don't worry about that. But this, it's just, I don't know. It's like I think there's more of a lot of lazy writing in exchange for, did you notice this Easter egg shit in it? And it's like, no, I didn't. I'm trying to engage with the story. Can you do that, please?
They definitely need to take more time on certain characters and their motivations or what is happening, because there were certain things that were said, like, oh, Damon's doing this because of this, and I'm like, well, you're not showing me that, and you're not telling me that in the story either way. Why do I have to know behind the scenes? But I kind of blow it off, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really like watching the behind the scenes stuff that much, because I don't. It's kind of upsetting, Yeah, you're definitely right, and you're being upset about the behind the scenes stuff, because it's annoying.
It hasn't really bothered me too much until this episode. There's so much left unsaid, and they cut stuff out of this episode that was important. I saw that on Twitter, and
yeah. I did see a hugging scene.
Yeah. They majorly cut, and they said they cut it for time. It's like, this was
no.
Fuck you, dude. It's an hour and 5 minutes. You can't make it an hour and
it's HBO.
6.
It doesn't fucking matter how long it is.
Yeah.
Everybody pretty much streams it, and even if they don't, but you have to cut out fucking a couple of these parts. I'm like, you could have cut that out and made that
right.
When the kid's going down to the dragon pit.
That could have been shorter. The Aegon scene could have been 4 strokes and done. And
oh my God. Best part of the episode. Right where fucking Tommen jumped out the fucking window. I remember watching that scene in Game of Thrones and yelling at my TV, going, fucking do it already. Something I'm kind of missing is some of the humor. There's not as much humor in this.
There's no
Game of Thrones had a ton of humor, but it did have some. Also, there's not anybody in this show that I kind of like or am rooting for.
Yes.
I kind of fucking hate all of them.
Yes, that is a big issue.
So, and the people that I kind of start to like, bye-bye.
The last bit of humor we had was tapestries. He's not interested in that.
Yeah.
That's the limit of.
There's some random farts.
It's like, who wrote this? Who wrote this show? Us? What if he farts here?
So it just reminded me. Have you ever watched Succession, the show on HBO?
I haven't.
Succession.
No.
Okay, well, I only watched a little bit of it, maybe the first episode or two. And I'm like, it's just about a bunch of fucking rich cunts, and it really is just a bunch of fucking rich people that are just battling for power and their dad, and get their dad's fucking money and business, whatever. And I'm like, why the fuck do I care about a bunch of rich fucking cunts? That is the best word to use.
Yeah.
I'm kind of feeling that way a little bit. A bunch of rich people, just battling for this power. I don't know, almost in a childish way, in a sense.
Meanwhile, with no characters to actually empathize with or be invested in.
Yes.
It's all the only person to empathize with is Viserys.
Viserys or Laenor.
Yeah, Laenor, I guess.
Or Lena. Maybe Harwin a little bit.
Well, that's the thing is,
but not as much him. So I don't know. The thing is, we don't know anything.
We don't
about
know
these
the characters
either.
Yeah,
like and I don't know Larys. I don't know Harwin. I don't know their dad. What's their dad's name?
Lionel.
Lionel. I don't really know any of them that much.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is first season too, but I don't know.
And I think the argument is that these people aren't necessarily important to the story, and they're only there to fulfill a purpose. They're there to get Bernard to the park to get the technology he needs. And
yeah, but I mean that's the thing that sucks is like, is it only to get a fucking big dragon battle? But if the road to the big dragon battle is
a bunch of shitty people fighting on dragons, who gives a flying fuck?
Yeah, or even bunch of people that you don't really know fighting on dragons.
Yeah. I'm sure we just pissed a bunch of people off. That's whatever.
Hey, like I said, I still enjoyed this episode, and I'm still enjoying the show. There are some things missing from it, though.
I would say I'm more annoyed than anything at how the show's been handled. But like overall, episodes are great. Acting phenomenal.
Yeah, really good.
But it's like there's no, I have no emotional investment in this show. Like if I stopped watching it, I would be fine. I wouldn't miss it because there's nothing to attach me to any of these characters.
Ooh, I wish you didn't say that. Now thinking about that, I'm like, yeah, I guess if there wasn't a next episode, I'd kind of just be like, huh.
That's kind of how, that's what happened with Walking Dead. I just stopped watching it, and I was like, I don't need to watch this anymore.
No, I don't really fully feel that way. No, I would be bummed out. I really would. Yeah, but not like crazy bummed out. But yeah, I would be pretty disappointed if there wasn't a next episode.
I feel like the show has been wasting our time for the first half of the season. Like the behind the scenes stuff even says that when the showrunners aren't directly lying to the viewer, which is something that I've noticed that they've been doing, because there's nothing pre this time jump that couldn't have been established either through flashback or just narrative. Like they spent half the season.
That's wild that you say that, because before we started this podcast, like an hour before, I was thinking about this episode and I was like, what if this season started
with this here? Yeah.
You know, with maybe a little more backstory, but basically right here. Mm-hmm. I'm like, would that have been okay? And I'm like,
it would have.
Yeah, probably would have.
Would have been fine. Because especially if you're not somebody who follows every little thing about this show, you're coming into this blind. This is they've rebooted the show halfway through. This is a new start.
Yeah.
So yeah. They basically spent half the season setting us up for this back half of the season, which is just the prologue to the Civil War that we all know is coming next season. So it's like you have whichever showrunner it was being like, well, we're being introduced to the kids who ultimately the show was about. And it's like, well, then you should have started the show with this episode. You didn't need 5 episodes of prologue where a lot of the shit already happens off screen or in between the time jumps.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you introduce an interesting character. And I say introduce because this episode is really our introduction to both Harwin and Lena. Because across the 6 hours of runtime that we've had in this season so far, each of these characters have had less than 15 minutes of screen time.
Mm-hmm.
And most of that is in this episode. So, I don't know. I get that Harwin and Lena's deaths are important to the story, but if you're going to make the deaths dramatic, then they should have done a better job at making us care about it, because you have, like, take Game of Thrones, Ned Stark's beheading, things like the Red Wedding, these big dramatic deaths, they matter in Game of Thrones because you're invested in the character. There's a complete lack of investment on the viewer's behalf for Harwin Strong and Lena Valerian.
Yeah. It's like people probably cared more about the dragon having to kill her.
The rat drinking Joffrey's blood puddle got more attention last episode than either Harwin or Lena got leading up to this episode.
The rat was back. It didn't die.
Like a lot of episodes 1 through 5, again, that probably could have been 2 episodes tops if you were going to do it that way and still get the gist across. So, like, you could have had an episode on the war in the Stepstones. You could have given to give us time with more young Laenor as a soldier in that war. You could have padded the results of last episode and explained the absolute injustice of Cole still having a fucking head. And then, like, the whole Lena and Daemon romance thing. I guess it's not super important to see all that, but I think definitely her getting the biggest fucking dragon is kind of something that should be shown.
Yeah.
So here's what's happened off screen in between that time. You've got Harwin and Ray are fucking and had 3 kids. Daemon and Lena got married, had 2 kids, and with a third on the way. Crispin Cole got promoted for fucking murdering somebody. Okay, let's go. It's like, whoa. Like, wait a minute. So, like, I kind of feel like one of 2 things should have happened. Like, they should have either started the series with this episode and just kind of filled it, let the viewer, because the viewer already has to do the work of figuring out the shit that happened off screen. They're already, like, explaining that, and we're piecing it together. Fucking piece together the whole prologue then. Who gives a shit? Or they just do the whole season with the younger actors, make a slightly shorter season, and save the time jump for season 2, when it would make logical sense from a TV series standpoint. Instead, we're racing to episode 6, and it's like, well, if you have to race, then is it even necessary? Like, you could have found a way to impart that information to the viewer over the course of the show then. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Or we could have started, I don't know, or maybe, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot that really, I guess, doesn't matter that much in the first, like, 4 episodes.
Yeah, not really. It's
man, I don't know. I'll have to think about that a little more.
It's introducing us to characters, but at the same time, Game of Thrones introduced us to characters while shit was happening. Like, it wasn't all set up for these characters. Like, fucking Bran gets thrown out the window right in the fucking first episode. Yeah, like, we get the gist of all the characters right away. And then this is a slow burn. It's a real slow burn, this show. But either way, no matter what they did, what the fact of the matter is we're getting a Westworld scenario where it's like, okay, that stuff happened, but why is it like this? And then it's being answered in the behind the scenes stuff or the official fucking House of the Dragon podcast. It's like, well, fuck you then. Like, tell the story or don't fucking make everybody do homework. Yeah. Not like there's been 3 behind the scenes things at the end of this show where they talk about young Rhaenyra being changed after such and such, like the boar thing, the play in Flea Bottom, and it's all been bullshit. Like, we found out real quick she's the same Rhaenyra doing whatever the fuck she wants to do, and thinking she gets away with it. It's not until, like, even this Rhaenyra, it's not until after her secret gets found out that she's like, oh, my consequences of actions, guess we better go. So it's like all these other takes, like on social media, it's like, you know, these characters you really see how much these characters have grown in the past 10 years. It's like, no one's grown. No one's developed.
No, they've gotten bigger.
They've gotten taller.
Yeah, they've grown so much.
Everybody's just been carrying on for 10 years. Rhaenyra being in a secret relationship. Alicent being shitty because her dad convinced her that Rhaenyra is going to kill her kids. Viserys still being fucking alive. Daemon doing whatever the fuck Daemon does for years on end. Like, okay, like, there's some development with Harwin and Lena, but we don't know because up until this episode, the only things we've seen with Harwin is him grinning when Rhaenyra is covered in blood and he says the word green. Like, that's fucking all we've seen of Harwin until this episode. Lena, as a kid, liked dragons, and as a teenager, she thought Daemon was pretty hot. Okay. I don't know.